Hi, everybody, and today I'm not talking about any crime-related issues or any forensic issues. Today I'll be talking about this pandemic, the COVID-19. As you know, that because of this particular pandemic in India, we are seeing some fatalities and a lot of morbidity, and people suspected cases have been in the many are in the self-quarantine, and some are in so-called quarantine centers. And the effect of this is we are seeing the business establishment has been closing down. The country is more or less coming to a standstill. The purpose of making this video is not to comment or criticize the uh, ongoing work done by the health workers, or to criticize the government. In fact, on the contrary, we see the Prime Minister is doing excellently well. He has done one of the best work which the world has seen. Why I've been telling you this is based on the facts, The number of fatalities, what we see in our country is the least when compared to any part of the world, given the population. Even the other instances like the suspected cases, what we are seeing, and the quarantine facilities, and more importantly, what we are seeing, the infected cases are the people from the affected areas have been brought up back to the country, which I don't think any other country is doing, and that is highly commendable, and definitely we appreciate the Prime Minister and the governments. The main purpose of doing this particular video is what we see is, though the Prime Minister or the government is doing excellently well, but there are certain lapses which we see in the early stage of implementation of certain policies or making of certain policies. The result of which what we are seeing on the ground is the suspected cases and the fatalities due to corona. At these particular policies or implementation, there would have been some changes. I see that these fatalities wouldn't have been there, nor the suspected cases would have been, or positive cases we would have seen, and the affected cases due to a result. That means we wouldn't have entered stage 2, or we would have in the verge of getting into stage 3. Why I've been telling us this? This is one such contribution which I just wanted to make to the country and the state, that the policymakers or the strategists who are in the central government or the state government, they would have, in the day one, they would have first quarantined. They wouldn't have just screened the passengers coming from the airport, from the international travel, and they would have screened for 3-4 hours, whatever, and they wouldn't have sent them back to their homes. This is the major gaps which I've been seeing, the result of which are seeing the fatalities and the positive cases in the public or in the community. At the government stopped. Of course, the government is doing the best, but what we see is the advisors, had they led the government in the right direction, definitely the government would have acted in this part. So, again, to caution the government, this is why I have been making this video. The government has to fix this particular gap where they shouldn't allow any foreign travel passengers to get directly inside the city or their respective homes. Then the concept of self-quarantine should stop. Only quarantine should exist. A quarantine center, and the government should designate only few cities where the international travelers can alight. The arrival should be designated only to 3 or 4 cities where strict quarantine facilities are available. And again, where to fix the quarantine. When the question of where to fix the quarantine comes, it's better to identify some schools which are vacant or colleges near the airports, or a makeshift quarantine facility be available in a vacant land, where all the passengers has to be quarantined for minimum 15 days. The sampling should be done there, investigation should be done there, the care should be done there, food, accommodation, all things should be provided from the government there. Only after that they should be sent back to the respective club under the certification of the negative COVID-19. If these measures being adopted by the government in the initial stages, definitely we don't have seen this particular stage or shutting down of the establishment or country coming to a standstill. But definitely, I'm hopeful that the government will definitely consider this and fix that particular gap. And we also see now that the 15-day quarantine has been made very stricter in certain of these places. The second suggestion which I need to give to the government is stop entry of any foreign national. This is not the state where, because the country is going to a crisis, this is not the stage for a foreign national to enter the country. So this is another policy where we can adopt. Affected or unaffected countries, better not to enter any foreign national until further notice. And the other third most important thing what I need to tell is to the citizens. See, the government has a role to play which it will do those roles. The other most important thing is, it is the countrymen as citizens, we have a very responsible role to play, especially in this RR crisis. The first and the important thing is we should follow all the instructions being given by the health and the family welfare and the government. Social distancing is something which the government is propagating and it is strictly to be adopted. Sanitizations, which of course all comes in the hygiene maintenance. So this is another very important responsibility, not getting into public gathering or allowing public gathering. So these are certain things, the instructions which the government has given, it is to be strictly complied, and this is how we can contribute to the government, and in the end we can end this menace. And another very important thing I would like to say is, now what happens to those people which are already been let out inside the community or inside the country? So for this also there is a remedy. The state government and the central government can in fact instruct all those deputy commissioners and the superintendent of police in the respective districts to, with taking all the details which is readily available. You have the Aadhaar, you have the passport copy, and where all the identity is there. You can collect all those identity, trace them, and take back them and put them into the isolation centers until all the investigations comes negative. What if they don't are not traceable, or what if they are not been cooperating? In that case, we can use what we call the Epidemic Diseases Act. For this, each state can ask those particular act, that legislation, that they can take rescue the state government. And other is Section 269 and Section 270, which is really empowers the person for the intentional spread of the disease or a malignant spread of the disease or unintentional spread of the disease. That can be used as a legislation against them. And of course, before that, a caution and an advice or a notice can be put in all the public media, the electronic, print, and the social media, cautioning them to report to the nearest isolation center. This is how we can address the issues for those passengers which has already been entered the country. I think all these recommendations which have been given in the best interest of the nation, I hope the necessary individuals will definitely consider, and I think the recommendations will be valid and be helpful to them. Thank you so much.